Okay. Good morning, Barb.
Morning, Barb.
Just have some fun today. But, not that it isn't always fun. I brought in the word intention for today's discussion. And for those of us that have played with mindfulness in any way for a while, it's pretty obvious that this inner awareness of ours does change us over time, often just through the process of observing without figuring out, well, how do I change that, or wrestling with it in any way. So, to relate into that, the topic of intention, I feel comes in. I'm not sure how yet, but we'll see. Intention, Latin, intentio, to pull into. Our intention pulls us and our experience into existence, into experience. That's been widely thrown around with all kinds of new thought teachings, that we create our own reality, that we can manifest stuff. The Christian version of that would be faith, if we intend through our belief that things will turn out good or go well. So it's an interesting thing to just take a look at from mindfulness. I guess one of the common uses of considering intention is mindfulness will begin to reveal old subconscious patterns that we've been living from and that have been repeatedly re-emerging, and we usually notice the bad ones. The good ones just like, yeah, life's good, don't pay much attention, we don't need to. So at the deeper level in the subconscious, which determines about 90% of our daily reactions to life, we have these patterns, and even if we're not aware of them at all, they're still expressing. They are how we intend to deal with this, how we intend our life to be at a very subconscious level. And even at just the psychological level, our intentions transmit, and we actually create so much experienced trauma just because we have an intention, like the intention to be right. Well, I'm right. And immediately set up a battle with somebody else. Before we even say a word, the look on our face transmits, I'm going to argue with you about this. And we create. Our intention is to create a battle, and we're not aware of it. And it pulls that battle experience into our reality. So a lot of mindfulness is simply about becoming more willing to observe ourselves at a deeper level. And that's tied to another component called the story of me. And we all have one very much, and we all love our story. And that's me, that's the way I am. And that means if we can learn to detect that story mode coming up in us, the story of me, it means we've turned off our awareness. And all the subconscious components in me are what make up that me that I am. And my story tries to a little bit define it, but mostly to justify it and defend it. So yeah, I'm like that. Whenever anybody says anything, I'm immediately get defensive. And then they'll always get mad at me. That's the way I am. There's my story, whenever I use that phrase or a thought similar to that in my mind. So although mindfulness itself is so simple, I'd rather be at peace. Yeah, there's peace there. Let me really decide. Okay. A little help, please. We learn to apply our mindfulness to a deeper and wider spectrum of our unconscious. And that's what awakening is. It's not gaining something new. It's not like learning how to do new stuff so much. It's about identifying where I've been living and creating my life unconsciously, recognizing those programs, and then intentionally deciding, do I want to keep that program or do I want to let my own awareness begin transforming me? And it's curious, I have found personally and heard others say, we have this need to be separate. I'm me. And we apply that to everything, to God, to our neighbor, to our partner, to even our most loved people. I'm still me, and I keep myself separated from creation and everybody else and God. And what we may not see is we do that with our own inner awareness. Our animal self regards awareness as an other, almost an enemy at times, because it's going to say, well, you can stop being violent and be peaceful with this, you know. It's like, no, I can't. I'm not like that. I'm like that. And we will actually defend our programs against our own awareness. And that's why it takes time for transformation to occur. It's not because the awareness doesn't have a much greater ability than we usually use. It's because we are suspicious of it. Oh, I'm not going to let something else take over my brain and my emotions and my body. And it regards it as a something else, earlier in our path or in a portion of our subconscious we haven't brought to awareness yet. It's going to subconsciously defend itself and regard even our own awareness as a potential enemy. It also regards God that way for people that have a religious or spiritual view of things. You know, when it asks, well, what's God's will? It also has a suspicion in that. What if it's something I don't want to do? It's like always that suspicion. And that's always a sign of an unconscious program. So if we just can gather little clues like this and let our own awareness identify them, we don't have to memorize this curriculum, but we can learn to be more attentive to our awareness about what I'm doing. Like, oh, wait a minute, tensing up here, I'm doing this again. Oh, I feel like being assertive, which I'm not saying like assertive is good or bad. It's not the case at all. It's becoming aware of how I use my mind, emotions, and energy. And as we, quote, grow or awaken, what it means is we are aware at more subtle levels within ourselves. And eventually we come to a place that's fairly constant and consistent where that awareness is watching all the time. So even while I'm sitting here talking this, I can watch myself talking this and feel my own reactions, my old memories of suspicion and stuff come flying by. That's woke also in modern terms, which I found out was actually a term put into use in the early 1900s in the South by black people because they were still suffering a lot from the Jim Crow mentality. And they would caution each other saying, oh, when you go into town, be woke. Pay attention, stay aware, because there's stuff going down. And it's cool that, they were talking about being present and using their awareness to friggin' survive, not just to, play this fun adventure of awakening, but to stay alive. So we can become aware that anything that reoccurs in our life most likely is due to an unconscious program in my mind somewhere, and I'm calling it into expression in my reality. We don't have to go to metaphysics. You can if you like, or whatever, but just the fact that at work I always end up saying something stupid and I get fired. I had a guy coming to group, he says, every time I go to this one bar, I get a broken body part. I got a broken arm and I have a broken leg, and dude, quit going to that bar. Sometimes it's not so subtle, but we still miss it. If we hold the general idea as a practice, when something comes up in our experience, if I can say to it, oh, what did I intend this to be here for? As if I was responsible for putting it there. No guilt, no self-blame, but it's an attitude that lets me look clearly at both the experience or situation I'm in, and also look clearly to become aware if there is anything in my subconscious contributing to the fact that this situation is here. And that's what in mindfulness is called taking responsibility for my own life. And again, always play with words. Responsibility, the ability to respond instead of react. So, and that's my little thought to start us off today. Other thoughts?
I had this image of like a glued on mask, and like all of us are slowly just like ripping it apart. It's a messy process. It's gooey and disgusting, but it's like the intention, which is the allowing of our own awareness to focus on that present moment, is that we see the pull, we see the resistance, we see the mind, we see the animal nature, and we intend to not rip it apart even though we want to. It's like we see it and we're slowly taking the conscious measure action steps to slowly peel it back with each present moment. But I saw that as a process, like the ungluing of the mask that we wore. And it's that process, and in between that could be like the dark night of the soul, where it's like you're in this in-between phase of like, who am I? And you become aware as the more of these threads become ripped apart from your true self, your true nature.
Good. Yeah, your mask analogy fits well with my story thing I use. But yeah, we're disassembling that. And because we've identified ourselves as primarily the animal aspect of human, the reactive aspect, that process is very threatening and scary to it. It will respond with anger to ourselves. It will try to block, like, we don't need to look at this, I'm fine. And it also will respond with depression, because it says, this is what I am, this is what life is, and you're dissolving me, I'm dying. And it will get depressed because it's no longer allowed to be in control. And that was the purpose of the animal nature, to keep us alive at that animal level of existing with a raw world that we were in. And it will feel sadness about dying, depression about dying, and all these weird emotions like that are going to come up in this awakening. And we're going to say, well, gee, I thought this was all about getting happier and more peaceful and more loving, and look at all this crap. Yeah, like the dark night, it's inevitable, so have fun.
Yeah, people assume like, oh, she's going through a spiritual awakening and she's ascending or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's like no one sees the torture and the disgusting part of it all that you have to go through
Mm-hmm.
in order to be that angelic presence. And another thing with the mask analogy is like Japanese animation, some characters I noticed, sometimes the bad guys will have this entity on them, like another child or a baby or a human being, like it's like a growth defect or something, and it just sucks the life force out of them. It's kind of like the devil on the shoulder in a way. And like the more you resist, the more it's gonna like latch on like an octopus on your face or something. Like, no, you can't escape me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking so graphically.
No.
But it really is. It feels like that at times.
Yes.
And that's the hard part.
I think that's where all that imagery comes from. Different people imagine it different ways like that. But yes, it feels like that. That sometimes some component in me, that thing growing on my back, is just like so embedded in me. There's no way that could ever change, is the feeling it gives off. And experience with awakening will show us everything can change and will. And actually, the more softly we embrace it, the easier and quicker it'll change.
No, you're right about that, because I found this, I don't know if it's a solution, but speaking of that entity and that mask again on us, it's like I find that the softer I speak to it, like, hey, it's okay, you don't have to grab on so tightly, like talking to it like a child, the more it kind of like just fades away,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't throw such a tantrum. It's like quicksand. I'm not gonna fight my way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah, Eckhart totally sums it up. He says, you know, awareness, observation and awareness is sufficient to transform all things. And I believe that's true. No, we don't teach beliefs here in this mode. I have found that to be true. And the fear we might have of ourselves, of a dark streak, as we've named it, you know, people with addictions have those devils very ferociously attached to them. And to just begin observing it, like, yep, there it is again. Yep, it's going to make me want to do this. And then I'm going to do it. And then there's going to be crap. Ah, that's my story. I can look at my story softly too. Well, gee, maybe it'd be good if my story changed. Awareness, a little help here, please. I can change both my story, I am that, and I can also change whatever that is. And as I've said before, behind that is a stream of our life. The energy of life is caught, trapped in these chunks of unconscious program. It sets them free to be expressed in a good and beautiful way. It's not bad energy. It's not a bad life. It's not an evil life. It's a trapped portion of my life that has been distorted. And I'm just going to let the light shine into it and dissolve the distortion, not any of the life itself.
Yeah. It reminds me of like, I watch like these mediumship shows and these books I've been reading. And it's also a broader aspect where when there's a spirit that can't cross over after death, it gets trapped in the darkness. But then the people with these gifts, they allow them to be like, you know, you can enter through the light, it's safe for you to enter through these portals, and the spirit kind of just like, there's fighting at first, but
Mhm.
sometimes they'll just like move into the light wherever the light is, you
Yeah.
know? But it just shows that there's always a broader spectrum of light and darkness, and
Mhm.
it just dances with each other, and it's not a good or a bad thing,
Right.
it just is. And within us, it's like you also have to find that light for that entity, that thought, whatever. We were just talking about the animation, Japanese animation, where there's like different entities or a baby or a growth, a human being on someone's shoulder, remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, kind of like we're just talking about that.
Yeah. As we allow our own transformation, and then we allow ourselves to be aware of stuff that isn't transformed yet, and can learn to look at it kindly, that also is what lets us begin becoming a much more powerful light in the world. Because now, instead of just looking and saying, "You jerk, you idiot," I can look and see their trapped program with the same kindness I've learned to look at my own, and I can offer them that kindness. I'm getting this from the image you gave of the light workers coming to the dark trapped souls, and they're inviting them with kindness. They're not grabbing them and dragging them, and they're not telling them they're bad for being trapped. They're just, you know, you know, kill them with kindness approach. And then again, we're back to Dalai Lama, who sums it all up as be kind, be happy. Done. You know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And
so-
before I looked at that, I was like, that's it? Be kind,
Yeah.
that's all you have to say? Like, that's it? You know? But once you go through that mucky releasing, it really is just that.
Mhm.
You know, it's just, that's the roadblock, that's the wall that everyone has to go through. And it's easily, you can take that and easily project it onto other people,
Mhm.
point, like, that's your fault, that's your
Yeah.
fault, you make me feel like this, you did
Right.
this, that's all your fault, you're being mean. But it's actually like, no, that's your wall that you still have to clear, and you're just projecting it onto everybody but
Yeah.
yourself.
I'd just like to add, it's another element beyond just clearing is in the process we re-identify ourselves as the awareness that's watching this and leading this clearing process. So not only are we clearing out all those programs and emotional garbage, but we're no longer thinking that's who I am in the process of clearing it. So then we've got this new identity as the, you know, being of light, I like to think sometimes. I still have programs. I'm still a me, a personality, and I like to do this and want to do that and can help this way and, you know, enjoy my chicken pizza. And but they're not running me. And instead, since they're not running me, I don't have to battle them. I can just enjoy them. When it's time to let the puppy go run, you let it go run, and then you rein it back in and you do whatever else you were going to do. So that we're no longer thrown around by these conflicting programs that take turns coming up and wanting to run the show in us. That's nice.
Yeah, a good reminder of all of us with our inner puppy inside of us too,
Mhm.
to see it as that.
Yeah, that's what we end up with when, as the transformation proceeds. Any thoughts, Kevin?
I just had some thoughts, like, I've seen it. I've seen when you mentioned programs that people have that they run, that this is how it works, I had some images, flashbacks to what people have told me of how they've seen things, and then me becoming more aware of how they see things, and like when you mentioned the the person with the who goes to a bar and gets injured or something
Mhm.
like that. And then I thought of one of those layers beneath that. It's just like, well, they probably also feel like they have to go to a bar all the time. Or I remember someone telling me, I'm just like, why can't you do that kindly? And he's like, no, that's not the way my bloodline does it.
Yeah,
Um,
the story of me.
that's
Yeah.
that's not the way we do things. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And
Yeah. I have found it often very amazing is sometimes I also call it spirit awareness. Sometimes it just grabs me in an experience or an encounter and I just get peaceful without even thinking about any of this and it'll hold me there. And just times that has happened and the whole situation would just diffuse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm thinking of meeting up people like you're mentioning it, or determined, like, no, that's how we do it. We beat people up, or we throw them out, or, you know. And this inner light actually does go out. It actually penetrates that. So, and for me, that lets me build a bigger picture. As we get better at staying and returning to this peace, we are the lights shining into all the buried crap in this collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, with each person we meet or think of, I believe, we dissolve a little bit of it for them as well as for
Mhm.
us. So to me, that's just a very satisfying part of this awakening and why a lot of the Eastern teachers saying that the best thing you can do for the planet is let yourself wake up. But it's tied into that collective effect that it has. So it's nice to know that us going around being loving and happy really does melt the collective garbage pool
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's better than adding to it.
If you want to change the world, change yourself.
Yeah.
It's cheesy, but it's true. It's true. It's like a room full of candles. We all experience all of our light being blown out once or a few times. And that's where like the depression and all that
Mhm.
darkness comes in. But then again, remembering our flame and then helping us to basically light up those around us slowly but
Mhm.
surely. Yeah.
The light's more for everybody. then.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's harder to blow that out next time because
Right.
you practiced it many times. So those that have been like traumatized and chose to elevate each time with kindness and love with them,
Yeah.
they're like the true leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen in a few cases, can't say all the time, but people that have not ever acknowledged their own inner goodness or light, our presence with them can ignite that, using your candle analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Where finally they have an experience and they're like, oh, I have that too. And, you know, a couple times people that, the groups I would run were very fun. It attracted a lot of AA people that became sort of permanent members, and then they would drag new people to it as this being their sponsor. It's like, you want me to be your sponsor? You got to come to this group.
Mhm.
So we'd get a lot of people coming in there that just had no use for this bullshit, you know? And yet, those are the ones where after they'd be there a while, and you just, sometimes you actually get to see it. Just they, like, oh,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
oh, there's peace in here, you know? And we'd all clap for them, but,
You understand, they're like, oh man. It's kind of like your light irritates their demon kind of thing.
yeah, at
It's
first
like,
it does.
I hate this. This is useless. And then all of a sudden you keep sitting there like, oh, I guess I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. it's nice we have each other. I mean, us here as this particular group, and when I look into the world in my mind, other people playing this light, because alone it's easy to get that flame temporarily blown out. And just being able to think of you guys, if my flame starts to flicker too bad, it's like, wait, no, I remember what we're about here. And it's so cool, just the way it's a web of light.
Right, yeah.
Kind of holds us all up a little bit when we get wobbled.
Out, but we're still here, still stable. And it's just getting stronger and stronger with more resistance. And that's what we're seeing playing out in the world now.
Yeah.
It's like they're doing everything to blow it all out, but it's like, just keep holding on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's polarizing, I think, in a good way that's going to lead to a growth.
Yeah.
Because the dark side is so blatantly evil and lying and killing and causing suffering. And yet, here you got these guys, so many awakening people just saying, no, we see what you're doing.
Right.
There's no longer that vast unconscious zone saying, well, they must be doing it for a good reason. The contrast is now so apparent between good and evil. And I think a lot more people that had been in the middle will now just step over to the good side and quit supporting that unconsciously. So it's exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
It also shows like how our internal world is being reflected out there with the mask being pulled. It's like it's actually easier just to rip it apart now. It's like, okay, I see it. All right. Yeah. Where we're not separate of it, but it's like we see the dance of it. It's okay. All right.
And again, I like your mask analogy. So even if you rip it apart, you still got chunks left here. But if we stay centered in our awareness and the good, it's like you just can walk between those chunks. And you're basically untouched by them.
Hopscotch and
whatever. But it's just intuitive. It's nothing you need to think about at all. It's just, step this way, step that way, respond this way. Just don't say anything right now because you'll trigger it, and it becomes much smoother walking through this world.
Moonwalking eventually through it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn off the video. Bye, Barb.
Bye, Barb.